Empires do not ask permission. They arrive with roads, laws, and armies, and they stay by force. By the 1st century, Rome ruled the known world. From Britain to Egypt, its banners flew over conquered lands. Peace was promised. But peace came at a price. In one small province on the edge of the empire, that price was faith, identity, and hope. This was Judea, a land once ruled by kings, now governed by outsiders. A people shaped by ancient promises, now living under foreign boots. Taxes drained the poor, soldiers enforced obedience, and rebellion was answered with crucifixion. This was not a quiet world. It was a world waiting for something to break. This is the world Jesus was born into. History did not begin with Christianity. It was shaped by thousands of years of belief, power, and human struggle. This channel explores the long road that led to Christianity, the ancient civilizations, the forgotten ideas, and the real historical forces that shaped faith as we know it today. Not to argue, not to preach, but to understand, because no belief appears in a vacuum. To understand Jesus of Nazareth, we must first understand the world that surrounded him, a world ruled by Rome. Rome did not conquer the world by accident. It conquered through discipline, organization, and a ruthless understanding of power. By the 1st century, the Roman Empire ruled over tens of millions of people, not as partners, but as subjects. Its genius lay in contradiction. Rome built roads that connected continents. It standardized law. It brought order to chaos. But beneath that order was violence. Peace was maintained not through consent, but through fear. Rebellion was met with overwhelming force. Villages were burned, leaders were humiliated, resistance was erased. And nothing symbolized Roman authority more clearly than the cross. Crucifixion was not designed to kill quickly. It was designed to warn. Victims were stripped, nailed, and left exposed, sometimes for days, along public roads. This was Rome's message. This is what happens when you defy the empire. It was not justice, it was theater, and it worked. By the time Jesus was born, Rome had perfected this system. Order without mercy. For Judea, Roman rule was more than political. It was personal. This was a land defined by covenant, by the belief that God had chosen them, protected them, and given them their laws. Now they lived under foreign authority. Rome ruled Judea indirectly. Local kings and governors enforced Roman will, collecting taxes and suppressing unrest. Herod the Great rebuilt cities and expanded the temple, but his loyalty was to Rome, not his people. After his death, Roman governors took direct control. Their authority was absolute. Taxes were heavy, land was lost, families fell into debt, and every Roman coin was a reminder of humiliation, stamped with the image of an emperor who claimed divine status. Religious life continued. Sacrifices were offered. Prayers were spoken. The temple still stood, but faith lived under supervision. Soldiers watched from towers. Roman standards stood within sight of sacred ground. Judea was allowed to worship, as long as worship did not become resistance. This tension simmered constantly. Crowds gathered at festivals. National memory was retold through scripture. Stories of deliverance filled the air. Egypt, Babylon, exile. And always the same question: when will God act again? At the center of Jewish life stood the temple, not just a building, but the heart of a nation. The Second Temple dominated Jerusalem physically, economically, and spiritually. It was where heaven and earth were believed to meet. Here, sacrifices were offered for sin, thanksgiving, and purification. Animals were brought, blood was spilled, prayers rose with the smoke. This was not symbolic. It was how the world stayed in balance. The temple regulated time through festivals, identity through law, and forgiveness through ritual. But the temple was also a system. Priests controlled access to God. Markets operated in its courts. Offerings fueled a powerful religious economy. And Rome understood this. Rather than destroy the temple, Rome allowed it to function, under watch. Roman soldiers stationed themselves nearby. Governors appointed or removed high priests. Religious authority survived only by cooperation. This created an uneasy compromise. Faith remained intact, but freedom did not. For many Jews, the temple was sacred. For others, it had become compromised, a holy place operating under unholy oversight. This fracture would matter, because any challenge to the temple was not merely theological, it was political. Contrary to modern assumptions, Judaism in the 1st century was not unified. It was diverse, dynamic, and deeply divided. Different groups offered different answers to the same question: how do we remain faithful under occupation? The Pharisees believed holiness belonged in everyday life. They studied the law intensely, interpreting it for ordinary people, not just priests. Their goal was survival through obedience. If Israel kept the law perfectly, God would act. Then there were the Sadducees. They controlled the temple. They rejected later traditions and focused strictly on written scripture. Their power came from status and stability. Change threatened everything they held. The Essenes chose withdrawal. They abandoned the temple entirely, retreating into the wilderness. They believed the world was corrupt and that only purity would save them. They waited for divine intervention. And finally, there were the Zealots. They rejected compromise. Rome was not just an occupier, it was an enemy of God. Violence, they believed, was justified. Rebellion was holy. Each group believed they were right. Each read the same scriptures, and each expected God to act, but in very different ways. By the 1st century, hope had taken a specific shape. The word Messiah meant anointed one, a king, a liberator, a son of David who would restore Israel's independence and crush its enemies. This was not abstract theology. It was political expectation. Scripture spoke of a righteous ruler, one who would gather the scattered, defeat oppressors, and establish God's kingdom on earth. Under Roman occupation, these promises burned hotter. Some imagined a warrior. Others envisioned divine judgment falling from heaven. Apocalyptic texts circulated, visions of angels, battles, and a world turned upside down. The Dead Sea Scrolls reveal a people expecting imminent intervention. History, they believed, was reaching its breaking point. But this expectation came with danger. Rome tolerated religion. It did not tolerate messiahs. Anyone claiming kingship was a threat, and threats were eliminated. Many would rise, most would be killed. The cycle repeated, hope followed by blood. And then there was Galilee, far from the temple, far from power. Galilee was rural, poor, and often dismissed. Its people spoke with an accent. Its villages were small. Its influence was negligible. Nazareth was one of those villages. It produced no prophets, no scholars, no leaders. Nothing of importance was expected to come from here. And yet, Galilee simmered with unrest. Taxation hit harder here. Roman patrols were frequent. Resistance was common. This was a place where desperation met daily survival, where hope was not philosophical, it was necessary. If a Messiah were to rise, this was not where anyone was looking. By the time the 1st century reached its midpoint, the pieces were already in place. Rome's grip was firm. Judea was fractured. Faith had become both refuge and battlefield. Political power rested with an empire that demanded obedience. Religious authority rested with institutions struggling to survive. Ordinary people lived in between, taxed, watched, and waiting for God to act, waiting for history to change. This was not a stable world. It was a world stretched to its limits. Revolutions do not begin when people are comfortable. They begin when belief and suffering collide. Whatever form deliverance would take, it was clear that something could not remain the same. The world was ready. Into this world stepped a man from a forgotten village. No army, no political office, no claim to earthly power. And yet, within a single generation, his name would challenge empires, fracture religions, and reshape history. In the next episode, we meet Jesus of Nazareth, not as a symbol, not as doctrine, but as a man, and the message that changed the world. If you enjoyed this video and want to continue this journey through history, consider liking the video and subscribing for future episodes. New episodes explore the origins of Christianity, the ancient world that shaped it, and the moments that changed civilization forever. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter.